How's everybody doing? Well, we are going to continue with now the intercession between the compatibility and incompatibility of signs, and talk about um, the self-sufficient model. But before I do, I want to kind of like wrap up a little bit on the sadomasochism. I didn't want to make it a 10th part, but I wanted to kind of like do an abridgment. You know, that way I don't have to do, you know, another 25-minute series. Does that make sense? So, one of the things I wanted to say about the sadomasochism pathology is that if we want to prevent it, if we want to stop it, and not have this propensity of the sadomasochism, then we need to change our perception of the Islamic gods and also of the Western gods. And, because some of these religions, they, the Christian and Islamic in particular, are pretty severe. And they propose that we have a God that is perfect, who has developed humanity which is imperfect. And understand that the basic premise, the underlying premise behind sadomasochism is that of equality and inequality. So, in order to defeat and beat this horrible social pathology of sadomasochism in the context of interpersonal human relationships, we're going to have to change the concept of God. Right now, the concept of deity, of God, whether in the Eastern, Middle Eastern, or the Western culture, which defines our own, is that God is perfect and we are imperfect. That God is all the Redeemer and we are filth. This disparity of opposites and dichotomy sets the tone for the sadomasochistic pathology, not just with us and God, but us and nature, God and nature, and then everything else that follows and precipitates it. So the cure towards fixing the pathology of sadomasochism is that we're going to have to redefine the concept of God as a being who is loving, embracing, giving, and we do. What we don't do is that we don't address the psychological reasons why the aspect of God that is not so nice, that is kind of terrible and vindictive and, Jehovah. Let's go there, right? Jehovah, God of destruction. We need to change our concept of a deity and not see him as omnipotent, omnipresent. But we need to see him as an evolving force that is also seeking perfection along with us. It says in the Bible, let us make man after our image, after our likeness. Well, damn, if we are imperfect, then that means that the gods that created us in our image, in their image and in their likeness, are also imperfect. So that means that we are all evolving towards perfection. Which is why it makes sense that we are governed by a demiurge or creator gods rather than the Heavenly Father or the ultimate supreme being, which we don't know and have not experienced. So I needed to address that before I go on to the self-sufficient model, okay, of social pathology, and how that could be a pathological condition if it's taken too far. But I didn't want to end the sadomasochism component by not saying that in order that, because I don't think that I gave an enough answer. I don't think I gave an enough answer to justify what would be a solution to get rid of the sadomasochism that plagues our society and our current modern and advanced Western culture. Right? No? So I am proposing that now. That in order for us to change that and eradicate it from the human condition, we are going to have to change our concept of deity. Because the template of this social pathology begins with that fucking story of Adam and Eve, where Eve eats of the apple and she disobeys Adam. So therefore, now God has to punish the woman and punish the man for listening to the woman. So, because the man listened to the woman, which led to his fall, now man must disrespect woman and treat her with contempt. And because she influenced Adam to eat of the apple without the permission of God, because the snake tempted her to do it, now God is angry at the woman and causes her to labor in pain. The whole story is fucked up and sadistic. And in order for us to evolve as a society and move forward, we're going to have to get rid of that bullshit, the ideology of a punishing God, a perfect God who is punishing that which he has created in imperfection. Why punish us since he created us in imperfection? What's that about? So something doesn't add up here in the human story and in the story of theology. These are the corruptors of history that yet again are here to fuck up shit and make us believe something that's not really true, so that we can become enslaved in a mentality where we cannot get out of. Well, I'm here to tell you differently. Get rid of that bullshit ideology. You have to, because we are moving into the Aquarian age, and the Aquarian age is not going to subscribe to this bullshit. So, in order to understand who we are, we need to understand and accept that God is not perfect. The God that created us, he's not perfect. He's an evolving being, an evolving force, just like we are. He ain't no better boat or shape than we are. He's under the stewardship of another deity, the Heavenly Father, the Almighty Ein Sof, that which we don't know, which we have never experienced. These lesser gods are demiurges. Understand that. And we are under their control and their dominion. So we need, in order to transcend Jehovah and move away from the demiurgic model, we need to embrace a theology and a concept of a God that is just as evolving and as imperfect as we are. I'm just saying. That makes more intellectual sense. Otherwise, the pathology of sadomasochism is going to continue. Not just in the Persian age, which is almost over, but well into the Aquarian age and all the other subsequent ages to come. So, having said that, I like to, put a nip on that. Okay? So now we're going to go into the self-sufficiency model. And let me tell you, this one is a doozy too. It is. But once we understand the interrelationship dynamics that are involved, we can make a better sense of how to make sense of the world and how to make sense of our lives within it. Okay, drinking beer. I hardly drink beer, but I'm being good. I'm going to be going to Chelmsford again this weekend, and again trying to solidify things, see the Lindstedt family, and be able to, solidify things. I really would like to see the theater there. And it's going to take me a year to pull it off because, when you plan for the next season in theater, you have to do it a year in advance. Because we've got to do with advertising, fundraising, promotion, the stuff that I go through in New York. I'm going to have to go through anywhere I go, you know? Um, okay, the self-sufficient model. Now, self-sufficiency is what it really means, and it's what it really confers. But self-sufficiency, if you look at it, self-sufficiency can mean many things. Okay? Okay? Uh, the relationship type of self-sufficiency is what I call the self-sufficient archetype. Okay? The self-sufficient archetype of relationship is an archetype in which okay, both individuals have learned how to identify and meet their own needs. The resulting attitude of such people becomes one where each will find, what can I say? They're gonna find fulfillment within themselves. They will have figured out the matrix of how to become successful as individuals before they venture out into and develop, interpersonal relationships. Okay, the resulting attitude of such people becomes one where each will feel that they are in a relationship simply because they want to be in the relationship, not because they need anything from you. Each person in a self-sufficient relationship is self-actualized. They know who they are as individuals and don't need any psychological or sociological reminder or reorientation or therapy concerning any pathology, socially or individually or interpersonally, concerning who they are. Each person involved in a self-sufficient relationship dynamic type is in full psychological awareness of who he or she is. They are financially solvent or self-sufficient. They are intellectually astute, socially aware, and follow the rules of engagement. And nothing could be more peaceful and more peachy. It's just absolute perfection. At least that's how it appears on the surface. Both individuals in a self-sufficiency relationship dynamic don't need emotional sustenance from each other. They can provide that on their own. And if they got money, looks, success, and everything in that ties into those trappings, then there is really no need for further self-development. So people that are involved in a self-sufficient relationship dynamic may not see a need for further self-development down the road. And that's where this becomes sociopathological. Not at the front end, but at the back end. Because when you have money and you have education and you're living right in the sense that it goes in accordance with your own values and pathos, which then when you attract a partner of similar pathos, then you have a true cohesive union between two people who are both successful, both independent, both financially solvent, both psychologically and emotionally and mentally sound and adulterated. What the hell do they need from each other? They don't need anything from each other. If they're going to be together, it's because they want to be together. Not because it is based on need or want. which defines the codependency model. So understand that with this couple, there is no need to evolve further because all the needs are met and they've met their perfect match. So, the relationship, all things being equal, instead of evolving, it will stagnate and die because there's nothing to strive forward to. There's nothing to aspire to. Everything has been fulfilled and satisfied and satiated and adulterated. So then what cause is there to evolve further? There was a story written in the Hellenistic period by Ovid called Of Works and Days. It's classical literature, medieval, but really Hellenistic period. And it's about how God created man and God created everything and made everything easy for man. Man didn't have to work. He didn't have to toil the soil, till the ground, and sweat from the bread of his brow to work to earn a living. Everything was provided. What happened to humanity in those early stages of humanity? Humanity degenerated. Because when you don't give humans something to do and everything is provided for, what's the impetus to want to improve? It's called Of Works and Days by Ovid. And that story lets you know that the reason why there is pain and suffering on this planet is because man needs something to aspire to. Man needs something to strive forward to. If you give everything to mankind, then there is no need to strive further and think and break outside the box to evolve so that we can become gods ourselves. That's not going to happen if God doesn't put fire in our asses. And the way that this is done is through conflict, through human misery. Because, and believe it or not, human conflict and suffering are the precursors that can lead to success. Because if you can overcome it, then success can happen anywhere for you. In personal success and external success. But the universe is going to test you. It's going to see if you're qualified for that kind of success. So it's going to throw every kind of obstacle or adversity your way to see if you got what it takes to handle it. And if you can, then you're that motherfucker that's going to be wealthy, powerful, influential. Because now the universe can rely on you to further the goal of humanity through collective philanthropy and good works, moved and governed by morality and rightful action. But man is not gonna ascribe or aspire to that if everything is given to him. This is why human suffering is necessary. God doesn't give it all to you, and He shouldn't, because there's no impetus to go further, to fight further, to strive forward, because everything is given. Many people have told me, Fernando, you got 7,000 subscribers. Why don't you have a million? Why don't you have a million hits and a million views? It doesn't make sense. People with bullshit content are far more successful than you are. But I tell them, well, maybe it's not meant for me to get the millions. Because if I get the millions, do you think that you're going to have personal access to me like you do now? I do personal readings, and with 10,000 subscribers, that's manageable. Do you really think I'll be able to give you personal attention as an astrologer if I had 10 million subscribers and followers? It would be impossible. I will have to hire all kinds of people to do it. And then the authenticity of Fernando is lost because now it's on a higher platform. So fame and success is sometimes not meant for everybody. You know? And I really believe that every measure of success has already been calculated for every individual person on the planet. And it is going to be based on their capacity to influence their fellow human beings, either personally, interpersonally, regionally, or universally through the agency of fame. No? So understand that, when you're dealing with a couple that is completely self-sufficient in every single possible way, then what would be the impetus for further evolution, for further growth? Conflict is necessary in the human scheme of things because it lights fire in our asses and it takes us out of a position of stagnation into a position of forward movement and action. Remember, I mentioned nothing is allowed to stand still in nature, and it doesn't. Things either evolve in nature or degenerate, and that includes human behavior and the human condition. Okay? So, the self sufficient model, you might ask yourself, well, how can this work? How can this work? If you have two people that are so independent, so self-sufficient, don't really need each other, and the only reason why they are with each other is because they want to be with each other, then if that won't be the impetus, which is that they want to be with each other, then there shouldn't be any kind of union with such a relationship dynamic with this couple at all. Would this now you will have to ask yourself, what would be the karmic reason for two people that are self-sufficient to attract each other, where they don't need to lean on each other or rely on each other, that everything is provided from within their own individuality, that if they're together, then it's because of base desire and because there is a comfortability level from a soul level that this couple can be peaceful with each other because they're not seeking, they're not searching, everything is fulfilled. So what will be the conflict? What will be the problem that will face this couple living under the self-sufficiency dynamic model? Well, the first thing that we have to say to ourselves is that the element of compulsion and projection, propulsion and projection, two terms. Usually in a relationship, you have people like in a couple. And it depends if one is older or one is younger, man or woman, or same sex relationship. In this aspect, there is a baseline difference. And in part two of self sufficiency dynamic, we are going to go deeper into it. But understand that when you have two people that are functioning at their optimum capacity as functional individuals, that's not going to bring that couple closer to happiness and harmonious love than a couple who has other variances that are not compatible. Because at the end of the day, and I love Jeffrey Green, an astrologer that I most respect and that I've studied under since I was a child, since I was 18, 19. Not personally, but through his books and his series. And I have to tell you that there is no way that you are going to succeed as an in a relationship where everything is perfect. There has to be more evolutionary growth. If you got money and money is not an issue, then something else will be an issue. Like I said, the universe doesn't give it all to you. Otherwise, what will be the motivation or the impetus for living and going on? There is no way that life is gonna be perfect and you're gonna roll up the credits like in a movie, blah blah blah. No. There's always going to be things that you have to work through. There's always going to be challenges and hurdles to overcome every step of the way. I don't care how wealthy you are, how perfect you are, how harmonious you are, if you guys are soulmates, twin flames, whatever the fuck. You're not gonna stay together and not evolve. Even though everything is perfect. there is still room for growth. And we're done with part one.